Those moments where we are on break, there are people who are watching, and like we argued that indeed the constitution, or perhaps an election, is quite, it's an ecosystem. We're going to look at the political aspect to it, the social aspect to it, the economic aspect has been raised by Martin here. And some people would argue that we also know how lawyers operate, and also how the civil society would operate and all that. It is a whole hula-baloo conversation that will get us to court, and people will make money and then just get the country down on a ditch. I still ask again, right now as we have this conversation, we really want to push it to a point where we can hold the election in 2026, and that all these factors are not considered, that to make money, just land the country into a ditch and all that?
The greatest threat to a nation, it is lack of fidelity to its constitution.
Okay.
On the 1st of September 2017, Justice David Maraga stood to address the people of Kenya in the morning, and he said, the greatness of a nation lies in its fidelity to the constitution. So when we champion for elections to be held as per the constitution in the year 2026, that is what will make this nation great. Because if you start circumventing the constitution to achieve today's political mood or political players, then what guarantee do you have that tomorrow a despot who comes in and decide to say, since we don't have to hold elections within the 5th year anyway, we can as well hold it on the 8th year or the 10th year. It's unaccepted that the constitution does not need to be followed.
Okay.
So a despot comes and says, no, you don't have to do it on the 5th, 6th, in the 6th year, do it in the 10th. Then when it's done in the 10th, he says, even the second term, do it in the 10th. Or he says, why the term limit? Because the constitution now has become a document of convenience that you can ignore and shun when it doesn't serve your interest. So we must accept that this is what our constitution provides, and we organize our affairs around it. It is not the constitution to organize itself around our affairs. It is us who have brought this document as our governing document, that we organize ourselves around the constitution. And that is why it is my plea to every Kenyan discussing elections today. You should be discussing elections based on your own reading of the constitution and your own calculation of when the 5th year starts and what is the period that the 5th year falls in, and identify for yourself August the month, and look for the second Tuesday in August.
If the courts were to go by this, and perhaps the entire nation then agrees that yes, doing the math, this makes a lot of sense, and perhaps this is the way to go. But then it puts to consideration the element of public interest, which is also factored in the constitution. Would it be possible for it to pronounce itself on the same, but argue that maybe we begin doing this kind of calculation after the 2022 general election?
When you talk about public interest, it's in the interest of the public
for us to
apply
follow the law.
Because look at now, for example, the gender question. The gender question,
two-third
gender principle, was meant to have been done more than 10 years ago. But now, because of political conveniences, we've shunned it. But this was a very key issue that the Kenyan people felt that we need to inculcate in our constitution. And you cannot have a country that half the population is left out in governance, and you think you're going to have a safe country. Look at boundaries review. Boundaries review is now 2 years late. You have areas here, Lego where I come from, go to Ruiru. I think Ruiru now has almost 200,000 registered voters, represented by one person. And
a population of 500 and above.
Yeah. So, and there's no review that is taking place here. Why? Because we've politically conveniently said, that is going to upset today's political arithmetics, so ignore it. So you are eating into the social fabric of the constitution, and before you know it, someone will start saying, even these term limits are not worth it. Even these fundamental rights and freedoms in the constitution, we need to shut them aside. Because you've gotten away with shunning other provisions. Where will you draw the red line and say, we'll only shun it up to here. But on this other part, we will not.
Okay,
So
I will still ask this, Muhesh, as you come in also. I asked Martin the same, but I don't think I got the answer. Where is the place of the crafters of the Constitution in this whole conversation? Because we still have them here. Do you suppose that they should as well come and pronounce themselves on what really they envisioned when they incorporate some of these clauses?
Yes, they should. However, when they put it in the Constitution, it was done quite clearly.
Okay.
Even when we read it here, any layman will be able to understand once they understand that it's not a calendar year. But from that time to the next time, which is within 12 months, that is within that time that it will be held in the second Tuesday in August. I think a lot of the issues that we have in Kenya is whether we choose to apply the law or not, and whether it's convenient or not to be able to do so. I served a 4-month term during 2013 to 2017 because specifically the interpretation of when the 5th year was. As to what happened after that, within the second term, I'm not sure, because that was not observed, or that was, I mean, people could say it's because of handshake, because of COVID, because of so many other things, but fidelity to the Constitution. The issue as well with regards to gender, 2/3 gender, we know what a fight that is. And the only reason it hasn't been realized is because it's not a convenient discussion to have. If we take a look at the number of gender representation in boards in all areas, we find that 2/3 is not even met there. So that attempt, that needs to be addressed. But Council, maybe you, Senior, you can answer this question. Within Parliament, there is an amendment to the Constitution to change from a 5th term to a 7-year term. Does that supersede then what is written in here?
Well, of course, if it's going to be briefly before we come.
Just to say that, of course, there are some, those who are in office will wish that the terms are extended to 7-year terms. But one thing they must note, even if you want to change a comma in the question of the term of office of a president, you must take it to the people in a referendum. It's their right to propose it, but take it to the people at the right time, and the people will deal with it.
Okay. I still bring this back to you. Legitimacy, expectation, the question of the public interest, which is critical, and then the element of politics, because Council here, beyond being a legal mind, is a politician. And we all are privy to that information. So when he talks about the politicians, I do not understand where he places himself. Because
legacy politician.
The legacy politician.
Yeah,
oh, you've been very categorical.
and the emerging politicians, we are the new breed of leaders.
In our genuine aspects, is it that Kenyans really want the current regime out, or genuinely this would be a guiding factor?
I don't think it's about getting the regime out. It is about doing what is right.
But Martin, you've been here long enough. Just how possible is this?
It is possible because once we have the commissioners in place,
which you say are going to be on board soonest,
which is going to happen in the next 1-2 months. There were games the political class was trying to play games with the process. You know, try to send people to court, try to create issues so that the panel is not properly constituted. But there was so much pressure. When they realized there was too much pressure from the public, they backtracked. So the process is coming to the tail end very soon. The interviews were completed last week. So we expect in another 1 week, because they sought, the panel sought the extension of their time, which they are granted only 2 weeks, 14 days. So they don't have much luxury of much time. They must either this coming week, or the other week, they must have submitted the names to the president. The president also has a limit, I think 7 days. within which he must submit the names to Parliament.
Yeah.
Parliament is also has a timeline, I think 14 days. So they don't have the luxury that the names will be brought to the president, then he sits on them and decides what to do. That luxury is not there. So once that is done, and there will be adequate time for the commission to do what they are supposed to do. Because if they are getting into office by around May, June, by end of May or early June, they start the processes. The by-elections will be done, you know.
Okay.
And that is going to be a litmus test on the credibility of the commission, how they carry out those by-elections.
And that there's no one who's going to go to court again to argue. Why is it that then you focus much on preparing the election for 2026 and overlook the delimitation of boundaries, which is also within the Constitution?
No, the delimitation, we've already said there was a challenge. You know, the time within, they were supposed to have done it in a span of about 12 years.
Right.
Yes.
But the time within which they were supposed to do that, we didn't have, the commission was not fully constituted. So we are already late by 2 years.
Okay.
And realistically, it is not possible for you, especially considering how emotive the review of our boundary. You know, it's a very emotive issue.
Right.
He's just mentioned Alego Songo, where my friend Atandi is MP. It's a humongous place, you know, huge population. The area is also very vast, you know. So clearly, we should have Alego as a constituency, Usongo as a constituency. You have Ruiru here, just across here.
No, Kiambu should be divided into...
Kiambu itself is big.
Yes,
it's quite huge.
Yes, with 2 million votes.
It's huge.
You know?
You have Kakamega is huge. So all those issues need to be debated.
Okay.
And for you to get, and you know, the commission is supposed to visit all those places and listen to the views of the people.
Okay.
So it's not something that you just sit in the office with a cartographer, then you decide this boundary, because there are the historical aspects, there are population aspects. There are so many factors which come into place when you are doing the delimitation. So the reality is we cannot have those boundaries now. But now what I've told you, the best approach will be they can carry it out, but put a caveat that these new areas will be applicable in the next election. So that there is no much, they don't create room for disruptions. One other issue which nobody's talking about, the recall of MPs.
Yes.
You know, and MCS. The courts have already pronounced themselves on the process of recall. And it's very easy. 30% of the registered voters, you take to IEBC, they verify, the MP is recalled, the certificate, IEBC issues the certificate to the speaker, the seat is declared vacant.
Okay.
If it's governor, that is it. So, and you go home, you know, you will not be eligible to vie in that, in the by-election or any other election. So, quite a number of MPs are going to be recalled.
Okay.
And once those MPs are recalled, even MCS, this is going to be a wake-up call to the people in leadership. That is now when you will get Parliament doing what they are supposed to.
You speak with confidence. You see the chances and of this happening? People
are going to recall. You know, the signatures have been out there.
Yeah.
You could see after the Gen Z uprising, people started collecting signatures out there quietly. So what they have just been waiting for, and I think that is part of the reason why the executive was delaying the constitution of the panel, because of the fear. Because they know in certain places, if the MPs are recalled, they have no chance of getting re-election, winning back those seats. And that is also how even the dynamics in Parliament are going to change. Because if you have a certain number of MPs being recalled, then the sides which are majority, minority,
the adjustments,
those numbers evaporate. Yeah, and it also sends a very strong message that if you are given the power, you know, Article 1, the recall is basically, it's like actualizing Article 1 of the Constitution. That tells even the president and the rest of the guys that, look, the power you are having is not yours. It is donated power, and the person who has donated that power can decide that they take back that power through the recall clause.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly, we speak about a possibility of us having a constituted IEBC, you know, in the timelines that you have spoken about, but we tend to overlook that there's a case active in court as to, again, the formation of the current IEBC.
You know, to the extent that the courts have not stopped that process,
Okay.
as my colleague Mr. Ndatis puts it, that process should continue within the time frame provided for in law.
Okay.
And if there be any challenge, decisions will be made, but there is nothing that has stopped the process from going on to its natural conclusion. So as he says, we should have an IEBC, in my view also, by the beginning of June.
Okay.
We should have a commission properly constituted. But one thing we cannot lose focus of is that the Kenyan people have been funding IEBC as a commission every single year since they passed this constitution, they set it up. So even when commissions are not there, the technical work and competencies of the commission are still being done by the secretariat who are there, and they are properly funded. The only thing that has been missing is the policy leadership that commissioners bring into the commission.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that because commissioners have come, IEBC now will be bestowed with the responsibility to do something so great that they had not even known about before. No, they are functioning. They are performing the functions of the commission. What will come now is just the policy leadership that is required to shape what directions the commission is taking.
Mahesh, I hope you hit the ground running in terms of campaigns because, well, you never know what happens. But let's talk about the constitution, which majority, and I want to believe that Wakili here as well, believe that is more or less like, was borrowed. I don't want to say it's a copy-paste of what you know other countries have had, the United States of America, for instance. Do you suppose that it is time then we again revive the conversation on just reviewing the constitution such that it can align to local needs? Because then we see ourselves stumbling, you know, in terms of implementing the same, simply because they probably do not align. You know, some clauses do not align with what we, you know, align with as a people.
Definitely. There should be, and I do believe, I think it was the 7th year, we were supposed to look at, there was a review that was brought in for clauses that do not work for us.
Right.
But there was filibuster that had a whole bunch of other things, so it fell flat on its face in Parliament. But in terms of looking at the efficacy of our constitution and the areas that it serves and doesn't serve, it definitely makes sense, because we're a growing country, and areas that do not fit or areas that require amendment, it's important that they come out. The only thing is that all those things are subject, they must be taken to the people for public participation. And that is, I think, the key power for all Kenyans in that area of giving in their views, participating, ensuring that they give their views in what areas are working, not working. And it is time. There is no way that we would be able to sit with a constitution that we borrowed from the United States in all, for all intents and purposes, you know, the issue of a Senate, the National Assembly, bicameral parliament, moving on to that, the term that is there.
Right.
So we must adjust our constitution according to serve the needs of Kenyan people. Not that it's a piece of paper that is supposed to be changed. Oh, today it doesn't match what a political interest is, but what serves the future of this country, what is in the best interest of this country. We need to redefine what are we as a republic, because I think a lot of people currently are quite dismayed at what is going on. We have never experienced the kind of upheavals that we are experiencing, where citizens say this and the opposite is done. Their voice does not mean anything. And there's no way of recourse, because either organizations are not in place, and we need to actually follow the law as a country. Because that's the only way that we'll be able to realize, when we elect people to parliament, we expect them to go and represent us. We have a joke in my county as to what has been happening.
Interesting.
Linda,
yes.
I would like to look at it differently. The issue is not about amending the constitution. You know why there have been challenges with the getting the constitution to work fully the way it's supposed to work. There are regulations which have not been made.
Okay.
Some of them with the parliament where you are sitting. The others, you saw even when Nyachai appeared before the IEBC panel, he really struggled because he could not explain, because the Constitutional Implementation Committee, which he chaired, is the one which was supposed to draft most of those enabling legislation, the delegated
Legislation, yeah.
the regulations and all that. And you know, it is those regulations which were supposed to give the constitution life.
Okay.
But because the political class felt that if you give the constitution life, certain issues will be lost. They blocked. So the issue is not even, what is urgent now is not even amending the constitution. Because it is the regulations. We need to push for those regulations to be enacted to give the constitution its life. Once the constitution has its life, then some of those proposals will not be able to work. Because this is one of the best constitutions we have had, we have in the world. And you know, you've seen even the president at times gets irritated. He wants to do certain things,
but he's,
it goes to court, and we remind him that, Your Excellency, sir, the Constitution does not allow you to do ABCD. Because they want to go back to the old ways and behave the bad manners, you know. Take away the rights and think that you can have impunity and do what you want. Unfortunately, we'll never agree as a country to go back there. So let's give life to the Constitution and even implement the Constitution, the ones, the provisions. And that's why now I'm very glad that we are having this discussion about the elections.
Dates,
because people are very vigilant, and Kenyans know what is right and what is not right. Yeah.
May I just, on that part, in terms of a commission not giving life to, you know, you can't go into a commission and not do what you're supposed to do. I served shortly as a
county MP.
No, not county MP, as an advisor within the blue economy, and regulations were part of the things that we were doing. They were not, we did our work in terms of ensuring that this would add $65 billion into the economy. The fact that it was not presented, and we did our parliamentary at the county level, we did it at the national level, we did it at Senate, we did all that we were supposed to do. All we did was left to do is give it to the cabinet secretary so that it can be tabled in parliament. That didn't happen. Did the Commissioner Nyachai do that?
I don't. He could have done his bit.
Let us now. You know, people must do their work when it is there, whether it is wanted or not. Just do it. And so, whichever cabinet secretary is sitting in office and all of this work has been done, table it and bring it to Parliament to allow the president to be able to do the work, to allow those particular areas within the Constitution that need to be enacted for them to work.
All right, and Wakili here as well, and all of us, I'm sure we've been talking hugely about the economic situation in the country, and that now we've had the president go to China, perhaps coming back home with goodies from what we have read. You want us to abort these processes that are likely to bring development to because these people are going to swing to
development.
I mean, you will see them swing to campain trails almost immediately.
He went to the United States of America.
It's not Joe Biden.
He went to America state visit. Before he went to America, he had gone to China before. And we were told about the goodies. Kenyans stopped consuming headlines.
And he was even in China the other day.
You know, these headlines we write, and they're based on facts and figures.
What happens in these trips is they just go to get talking points to feed you. When you went to America, we were told the Mombasa expressway was coming. It's now more than a year. Where is that expressway? Not even a single wheelbarrow is on site to start excavating. So why do we waste time discussing what will not happen? We are wasting time discussing Ruto's trip in China. What we should be waiting for, just like I said when we went to America, don't listen to the Kenyan statement. Wait for the Chinese to release their statement on that trip. Because then they will not address the Kenyan people. They'll be addressing their own Chinese people, and they'll tell them, we had this conversation with the Kenyans, and this is what we've committed, this is what we are going to do. But the Kenyans will tweak their message to achieve political points. Start telling you we are going to build SGR to Kisumu, we are going to build the Mau Rironi Road. You give people hope and use it for political campaigns, not that there's anything tangible about it.
And have we been landed to more debts? Do you think we have been landed to
We can't, Linda, the economy, the numbers are out there.
Okay.
What we are collecting and what we are spending on loan repayments, you know, the taxes we are collecting, the entire amount goes into paying loans and salaries. So anything else we call development is already borrowed.
Okay.
Now, we've hit the ceiling. Nobody, even a bank here, local bank, if your salary is all mortgaged, you can't walk in and ask for even an overdraft. They will not give you.
Borrower,
so the Chinese are in business. They are not philanthropists.
Okay.
If they are going to lend you money, you must show them the balance sheet, which will support the repayments. So, if you want the SGR, they'll ask you, how are you intending to raise the money to service this loan? If you want to do that Rironi Road, show us. You know, even if they want a PPP, there are feasibility studies. Is the traffic on that route, the vehicles, you know, they have the numbers, the vehicles which ply on that route, do they generate enough money that they'll be able to raise enough money, if at all was put there, to pay that kind of money?
Is it always about that? Muhesh, you tell us, is it always about, it has to be about the balance sheet, or perhaps there could be other things that could guarantee you a loan?
They can't give you money without looking at the numbers. They will not.
Understand it this way, just in terms of figures. This year alone, our debt finance is 1.9 trillion this financial year.
Right.
Against a projected collection of 2.3 trillion.
So you remain 400 billion.
So it means if we maintain our taxes as they are, and next year, our debt payments will be 2.2 trillion. Against this year's collection of 2.3 trillion.
Okay.
What is telling you? Walk to any bank with your pay slip and you're telling your bank that my debt repayments, I'm paying out of my salary of 20,000, I'm paying loans of 19,500. Please give me a loan of 10,000.
They'll not
look at you as a madman.
Okay.
So even in China, they're looking at us as mad people.
So what are we telling ourselves as a country, as a nation? That economically we are at a standstill and that there's no hope, yet you are backing a presidential candidate and you'd actually want to go ahead.
I'm not just backing. You are a party, we have a solution. We will not pay this audience debt.
Why would you want to take up
we are going to do what the legacy politicians cannot do. We are going to open up our debt register. And if we find a debt that was illegally taken, that was taken without following the laws of the Republic of Kenya, we will not pay it.
And you trust Safina Party?
They have gone to court.
Yes.
They are just not talking about it. They have gone to court to seek some of those debts expunged from our debt register and those who borrowed them. Because when you borrow any money, it is supposed to go to the consolidated fund. And you don't borrow money for recurrent. So the money that was borrowed, starting with even a Eurobond, it never ended up here. It ended up in Qatar National Bank, which was not part of the syndicating banks.
Okay.
So how did this money move from the Federal Reserve Bank, move into these other banks, and end up in Qatar National Bank?
Okay.
So any money, and you know, before you borrow, that money you have to get the authority of Parliament, both to borrow and to spend. So you must show us that you got this authority, you borrowed this money for these specific projects. Because you must show us that I borrowed 20 billion and this money went into building this particular road. And when you tell us, we live in this country. If you tell us that you build the Muthaiga Kiambu Road Mheshimiwa comes from here. I go
She
to
will tell us
Kiambu to
whether
do
it's
work
true or not.
every other day.
Okay.
We move here, we come to this station. So if you tell us that you have built this road and we pass here every day and we see the road is not there, then we will tell you to go and tell us where you took the money.
Okay.
So whatever games they are trying to do, they are not going to work. And what the president and the rest of the executive need to do is to stop doing PR. Because the problem now, Kenyans are very enlightened.
Yeah.
The flow of information, you know, everybody has a cell phone. So even those who don't watch this show now,
Watch
it
later.
will be online.
Yes.
Yeah, so guys will watch, they see it, you know, they Google wherever they are, you know, and now the bundles are all over. You have no control that you can stop them from buying bundles.
Okay.
So somebody buys their bundles of 10 bob and they are able to flip through the channels, you know. So if you are not able to watch this show now, you could, if you are watching this now, you will watch the other station and do comparison and look at it.
All right.
And Kenyans know who is speaking the truth and who is lying, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lady and gentlemen, we are coming to a close. So last laps to get your parting shots. What are the possibilities of a second term for the current regime? I know you can say with confidence that, of course, there's no possibility because there's Safina Party. Mahesh, is there a time you have been with Safina Party? No.
No. What I did was run as an independent candidate.
Oh, yes, the other
I
time,
presented
yes.
My nomination papers to
It's
Jubilee
actually
to run.
Tabaki that switched to Safina.
To run for governor in Jubilee Party.
Okay.
I did not get a response. They took my money. They did not return. And so I went independent. And with that, I was the running mate for Patrick Wainaina Jangov, and we gave them a good run for their money.
Right.
The differential was 30,000 votes, and were it not for the proclamation of the Supreme Court about hot air, we had more than enough evidence of stolen votes, changed ballots, and clearly unsigned ballots. But then the question is, do you really have the finances to waste when you've just come out from such a very expensive campaign model?
Right.
So I am one of those politicians who, and I wouldn't say politicians, leaders who believe in serving the people,
Right.
ensuring that you do what your manifesto says you will do is what you do, and deliver to the people, serve the people of Kenya. I remember a time when I was growing up that we were proud to be Kenyans.
Right.
We led the continent. And this is in terms of development. We were the anchor, and our policies and what we learned, we were beacons around the continent. I would hope that we'd be able to re-establish that.
Okay. As we sum it up, maybe we come to you, Wakili.
You know, the writings on the wall for Kenya Kwanza and William Ruto.
Okay.
On the 25th of June 2024, the Kenyan people finished the job. They are just now occupying space. And the verdict is there. They failed on the economy. The only thing that the Kenyan people care about, it is the economy. And we don't care about political shenanigans. Kenyans only care about an economy that makes sense to them, that puts money in their pockets and put food on their tables. On that score, they have failed. And their time with destiny is coming. In 2026, we are going to vote all of them out. Okay. All these legacy politicians.
2026.
2026. Elections 2026. Okay. That is the mantra.
Interesting.
We are watching what is happening in West Africa. Very small countries, much poorer than Kenya.
Yeah.
But you've seen what good leadership governance can do. In 2 years, you have Burkina Faso, they have paid off the entire debt. In 2 years, they have abolished taxes. In 2 years, and that's a military guy. He's a young guy. He's 36, 37. So don't tell us that you have experience in running down the country. So age is not an issue here.
Okay.
And the Gen Zs, you know, the good thing is the political class is still trying to reenact 2007, where you have the kingpins. The masses moved on, the way Wakili has said. Them, they are still thinking now, if I have this tribal load, plus this one, then I will carry the people. We do horse trading here, some money changes hands, so we agree on how we are sharing cabinet. That is not going to work.
Okay.
70 to 80% of the electorate will be between 18 and 35. And I can tell you for free, they will turn up massively and vote. Okay. The middle class have been hard hit more than anybody by this regime. You know, the levels of taxation are very high. The middle class, all the gains are gone. They are struggling, you know. The middle class used to take their kids to the academies because they thought public school was not their thing.
Yeah.
They have realized they can't afford those academies.
Private, yeah.
They used to have Medicare, the cards, you know, so they never cared so much about what was happening out there. Suddenly they realized they can't afford the card.
Right.
You are used to driving a car, suddenly you are forced to go back to boarding a matatu. You are living in a certain neighborhood, either paying rent or on a mortgage. You realize you can't afford that rent or you can't afford the mortgage. Okay. So you are forced to go back to where you left. So the middle class is going to turn up massively and vote in this election.
Okay.
Then the teachers. You know, you cannot win an election if teachers are not on your side.
Okay.
And they are normally, the polling clerks and the presiding officers are normally teachers and public servants. If there are people who have been hard hit by the policies, especially the tax policies of the KK regime, it is the teachers and the public servants. So I can tell you it's not going to be very easy. The lie that, oh, you know, we will fiddle with the numbers or we'll play around with the algorithm. This is not Raila Odinga whom they always play games with. The youth know, the youth are actually the ones who know those IT stuff, you know. Okay. You saw how they were communicating
within the, yes, time. They were actually mobilized.
Yeah, they are able to do stuff. There are things you can do. Me, I know, I'm very limited on what I do on my phone.
On your phone.
You run the whole thing on the phone there.
I agree.
So it's not going to be, they believe that, oh, you know, we will mark ballots, we will steal ballots, we will carry, the election will be held.
Okay.
The votes will be counted and they will call the election. I can guarantee you, because the numbers per polling station is normally maximum 700. So how long does it, if you have 700 people in a stream, the ones who possibly turn out are 500. So by 5, the voting has closed. The clerks take a break for 30 minutes or 1 hour. By 6, the counting starts. By 7:30, they are finished. They call the votes, they send the numbers all over. Everybody will have the numbers. They will call the election, so nobody will imagine that they will play any games around, irrespective of whom you have put at the commission.
Okay, interesting. I know we have not talked about voter registration, but anyway, the conversation continues on our socials. We'll still have some other time to, you know, speak of this and more. Thank you so much. Last speaker, Martin Ndati, political pundit and analyst. Thank you so much for the great insights. Mheshimiwa Nyukafi and Radesha, thank you so much as well for the great insights. And last but not least, Wakili Willis Otieno, asante sana. And you for the immense feedback. We appreciate that you could keep us company all the way. We have to close it at this point, and I look forward to see you again tomorrow. My name is Linda Alela. Good night.